and I will be the facilitator for today's session. We joined today's conference with the intent to explore the knowledge, skills, and attitudes necessary to engage in social change work with a special focus on disrupting gender oppression. Thank you for being here with us. You are currently in our Alumni Spotlight session titled, I Said What I Said. Just a note, we will be recording this session. We are in a Zoom webinar, which means that your video will not be on the recording as a participant. However, we invite you to change your Zoom name to promote anonymity, if needed. In addition, please note that we have an ASL interpreter as well as live captioning available during this session. I'd invite you at this time to use the rename function on Zoom to include your pronouns next to your name. In addition, Dana Pfeiffer will be our Zoom moderator. Dana will monitor the chat. If you have any questions about technology or how to access the live captioning, please use the chat and we will do our best to answer your questions. In addition, Dana will help ensure we are all upholding our community agreement, which you can find in our conference support hub. If anytime you are in violation of our community agreement, you may be asked to leave. During our session, we recognize the process of healing looks different for every individual, and we are committed to creating a safe virtual space that allows for folks to take care of themselves when they need it. We believe that engaging in these discussions is important for our community and our audience members, and we are devoted to doing so with care, consideration, and sensitivity. We want to support our audience members by inviting you to take a break, step away, and/or turn your camera off as needed in order to take care of yourself, as we will be engaging in themes of sexual violence and harm, intimate partner, dating, relationship violence and harm, gender-based violence and harm, misogyny, racism, racist violence and harm, examples of white supremacist violence, homophobia, biphobia, anti-LGBTQIA+ violence and harm, transphobia or anti-trans violence and harm, ableism or ableist violence and harm, police and/or state violence or harm, and strong language. But now I have the honor of introducing the presenter for today's session. We are joined here today by Nahje Royster. Nahje Royster co-founded ours, Black Folks Discourse, in 2019, and she serves as event director. She earned her BA in Women's and Gender Studies and minored in African American Studies at Westchester University of Pennsylvania. She is currently in the Masters of Public Health program at Salle University. Royster is passionate about racial, gender, sexuality, and economic justice and equity. With vast experience in public speaking, writing, and community education, she is dedicated to educating people on intersecting identities, as well as marginal and systemic oppressions. She is passionate about gaining true liberation and abolishing all systems of oppression that hinder that goal. At this time, I'd like to turn the session over to our presenter. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here today, very excited to be presenting with you all about, being sick and tired of being sick and tired, basically. So my name is Nahje, and all of the other cool things that were just said about me. So let's just hop into it. So since this is a webinar, some of these things won't necessarily apply, but please just be mindful if you put anything in the chat or the Q&A about your identities and how they show up in these kinds of spaces. I am not a not all person. So, I don't do not all cops, not all men, not all white people, not all straight people, etc. because frankly, I don't care. I'm not about to go through and pick and pinpoint, who it is and who it isn't. That's not my job and I'm not about to do it. So, if things like that offend you, you're going to have to exit and go somewhere else because I'm just not the type. I would like us all to be mindful of people sharing in the chat. So, since it's a chat, it's a lot easier to not speak over people because it'll be read by me or whatever. So please just be mindful. Let's just have a good time. And this is a learning space. And also acknowledge too that I am someone that centers Black non-men, particularly women and femmes, particularly those that are queer and trans or otherwise a part of the LGBTQIA+ community. And so my work is intended to center and heal that part of the community the most, while also working on a holistic approach for the entire Black community. So it can look like tough love, because it is, but I center who I center for a reason. So here we go. Take me full throttle or not at all, okay? We are out here in this panini, and people have been showing their ass. I mean, they've been showing their ass well before, 2019. It's been a year. I think that's so wild. I'm like, wow, it's really March 2021. People have been showing their ass since before 2020, but they're still doing it now. What we've seen throughout this pandemic is that our government will not, get their shit together and do what they need to do so that we can sustain. B, we also saw a lot of civil unrest throughout the country, throughout the world. And it makes sense that a lot of us are sick and tired of having to deal with these kinds of things. And particularly why this presentation came about was because there's this constant, need and this constant gain from the work that Black women and Black non-men do in the world, with a lack of respect, right? So, it's like, oh, thank you for being on the front lines. Thank you for protesting. Thank you for the thoughts, the prayers, the energy, the manifestation, the whatever that you give. But also misogyny and sexism, also fat phobia, also ableism, also homophobia and transphobia. So it's like, don't come over here picking and choosing when you want to respect me, when you want to be a part of the things that I'm doing, or when you want to benefit from me, right? Like, I shouldn't have to look a certain kind of way for you to rock with me. And you shouldn't tell me that I have to give my message a certain kind of way so that you feel good. Your identity hinging on my manufactured inferiority to you is not my problem. And I'm not about to make it my problem to give that message to you sweetly. So you have to take me full throttle, or you have to not take me at all. So if you mad that I'm, marching in the streets, oh my gosh, I'm sick of men, I'm sick of white people, I'm sick of straight people, but you're mad at the reasons I'm saying that, that's a you problem, and you got to keep that energy over there. Because when it comes down to fighting state violence, when it comes down to fighting against oppression, systemic oppression, when it comes down to fighting these institutions, anti-Blackness, colonialism, patriarchy, and shit like that, there's no nice way for me to protest that. I cannot peacefully protest my death. I cannot peacefully protest violence against me and my community members. I cannot peacefully protest poverty, because these things are not happening to me peacefully. So if you want a watered down version of me, you're going to have to die of thirst, because I'm not doing it. You got to take everything that I'm given, or you got to keep it pushing, because it's not for me to worry about your comfort. It is not for Black non-men to worry about the comfort of everyone else in the world when we are hurting so much constantly at the hands of people that consistently benefit from the fruits of our labor. So with that, we cannot and will not be both savior and shield and target. Okay, so, we can't, be standing on the front lines of Black Lives Matter protests and being expected to protect the community, protect the world from the powers that be. We're also being attacked by the same powers that be. If I don't know if any of y'all were at Professor Justin's statement, but he talked about what's happening right now with the AAPI community and how Black people are, being expected and told what we need to do to show support, solidarity, and etc. But here's the thing. First of all, Black people been doing this work. Second of all, it is, like Justin said, for white people to fix these problems. You can't continue to put the labor on Black people as if we aren't struggling with the same problems. You also can't expect us to just, pick up where the world leaves off, because we're supposed to just take it and have these problems. No, we're facing these issues too. And it is really, it comes from a place of white supremacy. It comes from a place of anti-Blackness, truly, to expect that labor from us. And while we simultaneously don't gain any reward from it. And it's not that, you know, you do good in the world to gain any kind of like goodness necessarily, but we constantly do work that benefits the entire world, because when you focus on and center the most marginalized, you end up benefiting everyone. So we're doing this work for everyone, but not all communities do the work for us. There's a lot of anti-Blackness within the Black community, first of all. There's also a lot of anti-Blackness within non-Black communities of color. So to tell us what we allegedly need to do is just misguided efforts, because what you need to be doing, what white people need to be doing, is getting together to figure out, you know, how they gonna stop being typical white people and, you know, end oppression, end racism, end white supremacy. You got bigger issues than telling Black people what they got to do, okay? Leave that back in the 15, 16, 1700s, because we're not with it. I mean, that's still happening today, but you got to let it go. Like, you cannot. I'm not going to go off on a tangent today. Bottom line, stop telling Black people what we allegedly need to do. So Black non-men, femme people in particular, are constantly at the front lines fighting, like I said, and we are consistently targeted with anti-Blackness, misogyny, and sexism. For those of you that aren't familiar with the term misogyny, it is misogyny with, you know, that hint, well, not that hint, misogyny with a whole heap of anti-Blackness. So it's usually misogyny that is particularly geared towards Black people. And, you know, sexism is sexism. And the reason I say anti-Blackness in particular is because it goes beyond racism, because racism is white people against all people of color. Anti-Blackness is a specific strand of racism. It's a specific flavor of racism that targets Black people, and it shows up in so many different ways. So, I mean, in my opinion, telling Black people what we need to do for other communities of color that are suffering in similar ways that we are, that was rooted in anti-Blackness to me. You know, Black women dying, or Black pregnant people, excuse me, dying at higher rates during maternity and during pregnancy, that is anti-Blackness. You know, the new cultural fad of like colorful wigs and long nails, while simultaneously calling the original people that did that Black people ghetto, is anti-Blackness. Telling me how I should talk when I'm speaking to people, you know, I shouldn't be too aggressive. I shouldn't curse. Fuck that. I shouldn't, you know, I need to tone it down. I need to make it sound nice. That is anti-Black. Do not police me. Do not police how I talk. Do not police anything that I do, because that's not for you to do. Do not water me down. And because I am a Black woman, because I am a fat person, because I am a queer person, because I am a poor person, when I'm experiencing one kind of oppression, I'm experiencing it all. So when I'm experiencing racism and anti-Blackness, it is inherently tied to my identity as a woman. It is inherently tied to my fatness. It is inherently tied to my queerness. And I'm sick of it, right? Like, I'm tired of having to navigate these systems while also having the whole world expect so many things of me. And when I say I'm tired, I need a break, or I don't want to participate, it's like, oh no, you know, you don't care about the community. And it's like, or I just don't want to carry the community on my back for the rest of my life, like my ancestors have been doing. Anyway, protecting and respecting only the Black women you find yourself attracted to, or fitting the respectable molds you create, makes you trash, right? Like, a lot of people don't talk about this or don't know this, but going back to the civil rights movement, and you look at Rosa Parks was chosen to be the one to sit on the bus. She was chosen. That was a planned moment. There was someone before her, I believe her name was Claudette Colvin, but it's my understanding, I believe I read that, like, she was darker skinned, she was younger, I believe she had a child, you know, she didn't fit the image. She wasn't the respectable type to lead that kind of protest. But why? You know, like, if we're for all Black people and we're really trying to push this kind of like forward positivity, this forward mobility and progression and things like that, why can't it be anyone? Looking at the Black Panther Party, hella colorism, hella sexism, hella anti-Blackness and misogyny, okay? Hella, hella, hella amounts of it. But why? You know, like if you are going to respect me, there's nothing I can do to make you not respect me. Of course, personal things can happen, but in general, you know, you're not going to tell me that the way I talk is a problem, or the way I dress, or the way I style my hair, or the makeup I choose to or not to wear, or my nails and things like that. If you're going to respect women, or if you're going to respect Black non-men, period, you're going to respect them with no stipulations, no contentions, no contingencies, and none of that. You're going to do it. And to put that work on us because you want to be rooted within white supremacist ideals and Eurocentric standards, again, a you problem, not us. So what this all means is we have to decenter and deconstruct both racism and white supremacy. And it took me a while to learn and really understand this because I was grappling. I'm like, you know, why is it that people are, you know, saying like, oh, I'm pro-Black, you know, Black Lives Matter, la, la, la. But they aren't, you know, actually for the entire Black community, right? Like, why is it that people say things, oh, you're pretty for a big girl, or, you know, I'm not that fat, I'm just thick, which I'm fat, don't sexualize me like that. Like, what are you doing? But like, you know, it's like, oh, you're so intelligent, you sound so articulate, you talk so good. What do you mean when you tell me I talk good? I could be talking about literally anything and you sitting here telling me I sound intelligent. I'm out here telling you water not wet and you're like, wow, you sound articulate. Like, what does that mean? Like, what are your standards of articulate, of intellectual, of, you know, smart, or whatever it is you want to call it? And I'm not negating that I do have a certain kind of dialect because I am an academic and because of, you know, like the different kinds of things that I read and was exposed to growing up. However, that doesn't make me saying the things I'm saying any better than someone that is using Ebonics, AAVE, or any other kinds of cultural slang. And you should not hold that against me or against them, right? So what that means is hating racism is one thing. Like, oh, like I believe that, you know, white people shouldn't treat Black people like shit. You know, colored only signs were fucked up. Okay. Yes, you're right. But also, prison industrial complex. The prison industrial complex allows this entire country and the world to profit off of Black bodies within the prison system. That calls for not only taking away racism, but white supremacy. The fact that, you know, Black women make what, last I checked, 56 cents to a white woman's 82 cents to a white man's dollar, that is rooted not only in racism, but also white supremacy. Being homophobic, being transphobic, being fatphobic, being ableist, being elitist, all rooted in whiteness and white supremacy, because a lot of these ideals you will find did not exist until European colonization of the world. And for a quick sidebar, for context, Europe is like this, you know, and like they've taken over the whole world. And I'm like, the audacity of white people, like how did you become that way? What is wrong with you? That's not my conversation I have right now. But you know, you have to take away all of it, is my point, right? Like, you can't just take away the top layers. You need to go in and decenter and deconstruct all of that. And we're going to talk about what it means to decenter and deconstruct these a bit. But basically, all in all, if you don't take away anything or understand anything, you have to be for everyone or we're not going to thrive. And how that fits into what I'm talking about today is the fact that, like, you cannot continue to benefit off the labor of people that look like me, of people that identify similar to me, and also tear me down and be the roots of my oppression, to be the cause of my oppression, right? Like, you can't keep accepting what I put into the world, but you're also the same person that is planning, plotting, and executing my downfall. That's not fair to me. That's not fair to anyone. And if you're not going to fuck with me, don't fuck with me. The problem is, however, like I said earlier, the things that Black non-men do for the betterment of society literally benefits everyone, and the same cannot be said the other way around. There is work that centers Black men that will not translate to the entire Black community. There is work that centers all poor people that will not translate to Black and brown poor people, right? So how are we going to move away from just, getting rid of racism and to getting rid of both and instead of either or? And also, how are we going to decenter these things as a whole to really put us towards a holistic approach, a holistic progressive model towards true liberation that truly abolishes and truly shatters the system of oppressions that we are forced to live with today? Okay, so if you're tired of us being angry, stop making me mad. Stop causing the anger, right? So, unfortunately, I was not blessed to learn about Audre Lorde before college. And once I did learn about her, I thought I really enjoy her work. And this is a part of her speech about the uses of anger, women responding to racism back in 1981. And it basically talks about anger and how it is useful against oppression. One sentence that I like in particular is, focused with precision, it can become a powerful source of energy, serving progress and change. And when I speak of change, I do not mean a simple switch of positions or a temporary lessening of tensions, nor the ability to smile or feel good. I'm speaking of a basic and radical alteration in those assumptions underlining our lives. And the reason I like this is because when I was creating this this project here, I was just thinking about how mad I am, how upset I am, how angry I am at the status of the world, how angry I am at the position that I'm in, not based on like the personal things that I have going on, but the large scale. What systemic things happened in my life, my parents' life, my grandparents' life, and so on, that led me to have the experiences that I have today? What has happened to lead the status of the Black community here today, the status of Black women and femmes, the status of Black non-men here today? And in short, slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, that's like the largest factor here. But I was like, how can I convey this anger, and how do I want to convey it? And reading things like this is really powerful because it tells me that I don't have to, my anger doesn't have to sound good. I don't need to smile. I need to feel good, and it can be powerful, and it doesn't have to be me expecting or asking it in small, tiny steps. It is basic and radical alteration in those assumptions underlining our lives. So if it's the underlining, that means we, from the Rudy to the Tootie, we like pulling it all, we breaking it all down, and we figuring it all out. And reading this passage as well reminded me that I am allowed to be angry. Anybody can call me an angry Black woman if they want to. And if you've heard me speak in other spaces, I really do be popping off. And honestly, I like that. I like popping off because I have reasons to pop off for. So if you're tired of hearing me pop off, stop giving me reasons to pop off, right? Like, if you're going to call me and other Black women and other Black non-men this angry narrative, you're an angry Black woman. I remember being told I have a chip on my shoulder because I wasn't willing to say something like some men instead of all men. Do I have a chip on my shoulder, or am I tired of dealing with misogyny? Am I tired of dealing with sexism? If this is a chip, this is a real heavy chip. This is a generational chip. This is a deadly violent chip, okay? So if I want to be angry, I have every right to be. All of us do have a right to be because of the things that we've experienced, because of the stories that we've heard from our comrades, from our colleagues, from our peers, from our family, from our ancestral lineage, from the history of this country. Anger is not something that shouldn't be used. And truly, when we think about it, certain kinds of people are allowed to be angry, right? Men are allowed to be angry. Angry white women, they get validated. It's like, oh my gosh, you're so right. Let's protect you. But if I'm angry, oh my gosh, we're gonna call the cops now, I'm dead. Like, that's not fair. So in conclusion, if you want people to stop being angry, you have to find out what they're angry about. Find out why we're so mad. Find out why I'm angry and pissed off right now, which I already told you. I'm mad because there's this both and. You want me to save the world, but you also hate my existence. You are the antithesis to my existence. That is a very valid reason to be angry, and that cannot be taken away from me. That cannot be taken away from other peers in my community, because if this is what is driving us, if this is what is fueling us to continue this work and push forward, so be it. Nonviolence and all the peaceful things are not always the answer. Excuse me, let me check the chat right quick. I'll answer that at the end. So it's just, I have a lot of feelings about this just because I've been an angry person for a long time. And I know a lot of people in my life that have also been angry for a very long time. And we've had to grapple with, at some point, trying to water ourselves down, try to change our message, try to switch up our look, try to switch it up somehow, some way, so that it could be more palatable. But the things that we have to deal with systemically, poverty is not palatable, okay? Poverty does not come peaceful. Gender-based violence does not come peaceful. Intimate partner violence does not come peaceful. State violence, police brutality does not come peaceful. So how dare you expect me to channel my anger in a way that helps you feel comfortable in making me angry? How dare you expect me to make you feel comfortable oppressing me, no matter who you are? Because for those of us that are Black in this space, there's this expectation that, we're just going to let shit slide because we're all Black. Black men are my oppressor. That's not up for debate. That's not up for negotiation. Black men are my oppressor. So I do not have to take the time to tell you nicely to stop oppressing me. I'm not going to take the time. Why? Because the murders of Black trans women, because of the many, many, many Black women who have lost their lives at the hands of Black men in their lives, because of the many, many, many young Black children that have been assaulted by Black men in their lives that they knew, or even by strangers. I'm not going to tell you nicely because of a guy I watch me at a bus stop touching himself. I'm not going to act nicely because I'm terrified of living alone. I'm not going to act nicely because as much as I love Philly, Philly also terrifies me because of the stories that I read. And yes, I could take the time to talk about what kinds of things led us here and what kinds of things make people feel this way and etc. and how we got here, what led to it, what's the community like, blah, blah, blah. I can have that conversation as an educator. I can definitely do that. But as me, myself, just me being Nahje, I'm going to preserve me, even if that means hurting you, because who look out for Black women like Black women look out for Black women? Who looks out for fat women like fat women look out for fat women? Who looks out for the LGBTQ plus community like the LGBTQ plus community looks out for ourselves? So you just can't expect people to channel their anger in a way that benefits you and makes you feel good, especially when you're the cause of it. And even if you're not, take the time to understand the anger and let's figure out a way to move forward with it. So I love GIFs, if you can't tell. GIFs, whatever, if you can't tell. So with that, what the hell are we gonna do now, right? So if y'all are willing, next part is a little more interactive, it is interactive. So we're gonna build a toolkit, particularly for those of us of marginalized identities, particularly those of us that are Black non-men in this space. What does it look like for us to save ourselves? In a time where we're being pulled and stretched thin, right? Like, the economic crisis, the racial crisis, like all of the crises going on. Black people have been in a pandemic all our damn lives, okay? Living in America as a Black person is a pandemic, okay? Living as a person of color in the world is a pandemic, okay? It's an epidemic, it's an endemic, whichever one you want to call it, it's some kind of demic, okay? So how are we gonna save ourselves? Because we should not continue to have to feel like we have to compromise a part of us, whether that is our safety, our identities, our culture, our whatever, our feelings, for the benefit of other people. Because the work is going to get done. But we should feel comfortable. The work is going to get done, and we should feel comfortable saving and preserving and centering ourselves first. And the work that I do, I've grown very comfortable saying who I center and who I mean when I'm talking. Like when I say Black, I don't mean Black and other people of color. I said Black and I mean Black, which is why this was titled I Said What I Said, because I said what I said and I mean what I said. So when I say Black, I mean Black. When I say non-men, I mean non-men. If I say woman, I mean women, okay? If I say fat people, I'm talking to fat people. When I say LGBTQ plus community, that's exactly who I mean. And I'm not gonna apologize for that, because I'm at a point where I understand that while my work can benefit everyone, and while my work will have effects that, positive effects that are for everyone, I have to do the work to center, preserve, and protect those near and dear to me, protect those that are similar to me, because I've seen historically that work is not done. It is not properly credited. It is not upheld enough. I've seen that if we don't, who will? Nobody will. Because at the end of the day, people will always choose their oppressive identities because it allows them to remain comfortable. That's why so many people continue to uphold white supremacy. It allows you to think that you are somehow better than you are. It allows space for mediocrity. It allows you to think that you are somehow above people, even though y'all are experiencing the same exact thing, right? It allows you to be comfortable. It allows you to feel safe. It allows you to pretend that everything's good. Solidarity is not comfortable. It should not be comfortable. And if it feels comfortable, you're probably doing it wrong. You are doing it wrong. Because if we're going to do this work, it's nitty gritty. It's hard. It is challenging. And it takes a lot from us. And so because it takes a lot from us, we have to have understandings about how we can save ourselves and preserve ourselves in a world of white supremacy, capitalism, patriarchy, colonialism, anti-Blackness, and all of the other sad and unfortunate things that come along with it. So with that, if y'all are comfortable with it, let's build this toolkit. And if not, I can start it off too. And I'll put a couple things in myself. So for me, something in my toolkit is self-care. Like that's the start. And whatever that looks like if I need to have a day where, I have a lot of days where I don't do nothing but watch my favorite shows, that's what I'm gonna do. Self-care can be not going on social media, because I know it's going to be something, if something like traumatic has happened in the world, I know not to go on social media because it's going to hurt me and I don't want to see that. Yes, we invite you to put your comments in the chat. Yes, please. In the meantime, I'll see a question. It says, what Black feminists or other POC activists are you finding inspiration from right now? Okay, so I like the Nat Ministry, which isn't necessarily one person, but the Nat Ministry on Instagram. I also like Freedom John on Instagram. I follow the Black Lives Matter activists, Amanda Seals, Brittany Cunningham. There's a few. I never know them exactly off the top of my head because I consume so many different things, and I have a habit of just looking at the content itself and not necessarily who put it there until after the fact, but the people I listed are a few off the top of my head. We got some answers for the toolkit: therapy, animal therapy. Ooh, if I could spell, that would be great. Finding balance, yes. Community with people you feel supported by, absolutely. The friends that I have now they're my chosen family, and honestly, we all think alike. Which some people argue, if you're always around the same people, how do you learn? And I do learn from my friends, but it's just that we're all alike in the sense that we're not with the bullshit, like we don't do anti-blackness over here. We don't do fat phobia over here. We don't do all that internalized hate type of shit over here. We have checks and balances. We call each other out when we step in on murky territory, because we have to find friends that support you and find friends that are holistic, right? Like that are actually not only good to you, but good to the world, because that also kind of tells you what kind of person they are. Not explaining my existence to those committed to misunderstanding me. Period. Full stop. Yes, absolutely. Knowing when to step back. Reading and learning. I do want to take a second to go to this one point. Not explaining my existence to those committed to misunderstanding me. One thing about a racist person, you cannot convince them otherwise. So it ain't no point in wasting your time, because they will not be persuaded. The same thing with misogynistic people, sexist people, homophobic people, transphobic people, ableist people, elitist people, all that. They are committed to these identities. They are committed to emitting that kind of behavior, There's no changing them. If somebody's going to fuck with you, they're going to fuck with you, period. Even if they need a little time to learn, some people do. And you have to learn how to know and understand when they can actually grow, when they can actually learn, from the reading, right? Everybody can't do that. And so you have to learn how to gauge that for yourself. There's no explaining to people that are committed to misunderstanding. There literally is not, because they're not going to understand. Particularly, like when it comes to systemic oppression too, you have to understand, if these people aren't even seeing you as a human being, as an actual citizen, as someone deserving humanity and respect, you can't explain nothing, which is why I'm not always with all the peaceful jargon. I can't be peaceful to the U.S. government. They are my oppressor. The U.S. government is terrorists, okay? Police are terrorists. How am I explaining my existence to them? They are literally formed on the intention of killing me. The prison industrial complex is literally meant to continue on slavery. How am I explaining my existence to them when they literally benefit off of me being inferior, off of me going to prison, off of me being dead, right? Like, there's no peacefully explaining anything to them. And it's not my job to do that peacefully either. If white people want to go talk to them peacefully, you go do that, right? Like, it's not up to the oppressed to give the lessons to the oppressor, particularly for free, okay? It's not up to me. So when it comes to talking about queer folks and fat folks and black folks and stuff like that, if I choose to, I can talk about it, I can explain it, but that is solely my choice. And instead, it should be those people that are not a part of those identities to do that work of explaining it, because it takes too much emotional labor from us to have to, go back and forth, answer the questions, do the whole devil's advocate thing. Ain't nobody got time for that. Having said that, does anyone else have anything else for the toolkit? Sorry if y'all just heard me swallow water. Ooh, listening to music loudly. Yes. Literally last night, I had a raging headache and I still blasted my headphones because I like to make bad decisions. Something I do, I listen to like R&B a lot, but when I really need a pick me up, I listen to like 3 songs in particular. One is Shut Up and Dance, Twist and Shout, like the one that they did on Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and The Way You Make Me Feel. And you don't usually listen to songs like that all the time, but those are my 3 like really like head bopping, like jump around my room. Oh, Can't Stop the Feeling from the Trolls movie and the Bruno Mars 24K Magic album, because like I feel like there's a lot of chaos, a lot of different things going on in those songs. So those are like my guilty pleasures. I feel like they're kind of weird to listen to sometimes, so I don't usually tell people that. But this is a safe space, so I'm gonna tell y'all. Talking to trusted individuals, absolutely. Definitely be careful because everybody is not receptive to this kind of work, and ultimately you want to be careful. You want to be safe, right? Like be cautious. Be wary. We don't want anything bad happening to folks. Allowing ourselves to feel our feelings, yes. Building coalitions. Yes, yes, yes. Also, if anyone has any questions, you can pop them into the Q&A. Um, I'm open to like answering any questions that there are. We can also keep building the toolkit, or if anything, any comments or anything like that, open to that as well. And I forgot to say in the beginning too, that I wasn't always here. Like where I am today and the things that I'm able to say, and even how I'm saying it, I was not always here. I had to grow, I had to learn, I had to do a lot of unlearning for myself, and I still do unlearning. I still do deconstruction work, I still do, decentering work, giving yourself grace. I still have to give myself grace because, this is the world constantly evolves, the world constantly changes, and you have to roll with the punches. And so I had to grow to where I am, and it just so happens that my growth took a really radical turn, like it was like, oh, Black Lives Matter to burn the system down in like 2 days. And honestly, I love it. I am all for burning the system down. I am all for, quote unquote radical kinds of acts. Yes, which is crazy because the government could be listening right now, but it's fine. I don't care. I'll take the chance. I am anti-government and I am an abolitionist, and I will not apologize for that. Are there any other things that anyone would like to add? So I'll leave this up for a second if anyone wants to screenshot this, and you can like keep it for yourself. I'm not sure if my email is in my bio, so I'll put it here. If you don't get a screenshot of it, you can shoot me an email and I will send that to you. You can also email me about anything. Community education and public speaking is what I do. So also if you need somebody to do that, hit me up. But we can definitely continue these conversations in other avenues and things if people are interested. And with that, the guest is Auntie Max. I said what I had to say, and I said what I said, and I mean it. In conclusion, ultimately take care of yourself. Don't feel bad for centering yourself. Don't feel bad for taking steps back, for not showing up, at the protests, on social media, or etc. Because it's really, really draining, and it's particularly draining to certain kinds of people. Because even if it's not, traditional activist work, every day is a fight to be someone that is Black. Every day is a fight to be someone that is not a man. Like, we're always dealing with the oppressive powers that be. We're always navigating a world that is set on, being the antithesis of our existence. We are always struggling and grappling with things, whether they are seen or unseen, heard or unheard. I just saw, can you talk about some of the ways this work has shaped your activism? Yes. So this work has shaped my activism in a lot of ways. It allowed me to be how I am today. It taught me how to further incorporate my Blackness, my culture, my more personal kinds of energy into my professional work. So, like the small things, getting comfortable wearing head wraps, in professional settings, in a t-shirt, not feeling like I had to look like, I'm going to like a business meeting or something. It also shows up in how I talk. I'm someone, I personally, as you can tell, I like cursing. To me, it's just colorful ways of expression, and I like that. And this work shapes me because I do this work for Black people, and though I am an academic, I don't intend to only ever use my abilities in academic spaces. And so I try to find ways to be more casual and more communal in these kinds of conversations. So I talk in ways that I hear my peers talk. I talk in ways that I would talk to my peers, and in less professional settings, because the message can still go out. And I find that, if you're gonna like it, you're gonna like it. And so I guess all that to say, continuing this work and continuing to study this work further pushes me in, authenticity. It further pushes me in being and understanding that it's not for me to be unapologetic, because there's never anything for me to apologize for in the first place when it comes to my identities, but moving with ease and grace of who I am, giving myself grace to grow, and giving myself time to evolve and progress as time goes on. This work also teaches me just how amazing my ancestors were. Like, I learned a lot about Black men and other men in general, and how they've contributed to the world. But this work further teaches me other people that were there, non-binary people that were doing this work, trans people that were doing this work, other non-men that were doing this work, other women and men doing this work, of varying genders, of varying sexual identities. And just, this work gives me a home. And so through my activism, I want to give other people a home, because growing up, as these thoughts were slowly starting to develop, the reason they took the time they did was because I didn't have space. I didn't have anyone around me that was really having these conversations. And so my goal is to find other people that were feeling similar. They're like, but I don't know where to say this. I don't know how to say it. And I want to be able to offer a space where people can feel like, they can say that with me. They can grow with me. They can be candid with me. We can have the conversations, and it can be as radical, as far left, as, progressive as you want to make it, because I'm all for it if it ends in, holistic, healthy, attainable liberation and freedom. And lastly, this work makes me happy, even in all the stressors of the world that we just talked about. This work allows me to feel good being a Black woman. This work allows me to be thankful that I'm a Black woman, because I'm top tier. Black women, like, like what? Like, we're so amazing. I'm iconic. We are all iconic. We are all top tier. And this work reminds me of that. And also, it just it teaches me other ways to spread love to the community, to spread grace to the community, and have nuanced conversations that are both and. You're problematic, but also, and I love you and I want you to do better. So that was a long answer, but that's my answer. Thank you for asking. Are there any other questions?
I wanted to say thank you so much for your wonderful presentation, Nahje. We have a few minutes left. I wanted to ask a question and then maybe we can take one more after that. You kind of alluded to this earlier, but I just wanted to see if you'll elaborate and talk more about this specifically. Nowadays people say a lot, call in instead of call out. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's a really good approach because there's a time and place for everything. So for me, I usually don't call in white people because I don't think that I have to give them that kind of grace, so I call them out. Versus when I'm talking about like anti-blackness within the Black community, whether like if like it's like a one-on-one conversation or something, it's more of call-in style. So if this was like just a community of like if I knew it was all Black people in this space, it would definitely be more of a call-in approach that is a bit more, the word soft is coming to mind, but I don't mean soft in a way that's like watered down. I just mean soft in a way that is more compassionate, having more understanding and taking more time to parse things out and really shape next steps and like finding out things that are needed. I think it's really good, but I think there's a time and place for everything. Like I said, you can't, and not everybody can handle call-ins, because depending on like people's defensiveness and things, it just might not work. And it also depends on what you're calling out or what you're calling in. Like if it's something, I don't want to speak for a community. So like for me, if I feel that it's something that like irritates me a bit, but isn't like a huge deal and it happened maybe more privately, I can maybe do a call-in approach. But like if I'm reading something, say like something misogynistic on, I have a better example. This guy, there was a post on Facebook talking about assault towards young girls in high school. And this guy, was like, oh, well, we experienced that too or something. And I was like, if you want to talk about that, you can make a post about it, but we're talking about women right now, and you shouldn't overshadow that because you want to make this, a whole community thing when we're talking about something particular. We're talking about gender-based violence. And you need to focus. We can have that conversation, but you need to focus. That was more of a call out situation to me because it was, people could see this because it was on social media, but also this is pressing, right? Like you don't always have time to be like, hey, bud, how are you? Let's chat. It's more like, yo, what the fuck? Get it together. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Tess. It's definitely something I'm still learning and trying to figure out. It takes time because I'm very much a visceral person. I use the word spicy interchangeably. It's very versatile, but like I can be spicy in like a bad way where I really just like pop off really quick, and like I be working on not doing that because like time and place, I gotta have grace sometimes. I need to be a little patient because I be a firecracker, and you know what? That's okay, but not always. So it's a working situation. If no one else has any questions, I do want to say thank you for being here with me. I had a good time. This is my first webinar style, so that was really cool. And again, thank you to Sweegie for having me.
Thank you so much. I think we all learned a lot today and had a good time also. So now we want to also thank our participants for your time, your energy, and your commitment to gender justice. We ask you to please consider filling out our evaluation, which will be sent out to you via email. Also, I believe we'll have a QR code in a bit if you need to record your attendance at today's session for any reason. We also hope that you join us for our next session, which will be the Student Spotlight, Becoming Yourself in the PWI and Beyond, or our other sessions later today. And if you do want to learn more about those sessions for today and tomorrow, please visit our Conference Support Hub. Dana put that link in the chat earlier, but all the information for the conference will be in there. Thank you all. Thank you, Nahje, and thank you again to all the participants.